What's up, guys? I'm DK Wrestler, and today I'm going to be determining the best and the worst Funko Pops of 2025. For this video, I have a total of 10 different categories that I'll name throughout the video that I'll be determining the best and worst of when it comes to Funko Pops in 2025. And if you end up enjoying this type of content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, but nonetheless, let's kick off this list. The best and worst new pop lineup and series. And this is a fairly difficult category to go through, considering that a lot of times Funko don't make a lot of new things. And so the worst for this category, in my opinion, has to be the Blueprint Pops. I've stated on episodes of This Week in Collectible News that I felt that the Blueprint Pops are kind of like a knockoff artist series from a few years back. And for the best of the year, this was actually pretty difficult because there were a lot of new licenses that I thoroughly enjoyed Funko making. A couple of examples being Superstore, of course, King of the Hill was a massive license that a lot of people liked, and one that I almost put as the best being The Land Before Time. But the set that I ended up going with was Phineas and Ferb, and I know a lot of people did enjoy the set as well, despite the fact that, of course, Phineas looks like he's possessed. Current pop lineup and series. And for the worst, in my opinion, has to be the Hello Kitty and Friends lineup. It almost felt like throughout 2025 that they were making as much Hello Kitty and Friends Pops as they were anime Funko Pops, and there is a ton of anime with the different licenses involved. And the best current lineup of 2025 has to be the Toy Story lineup. Of course, I am being a little bit biased here because Toy Story is the #1 set of Pops that I collect. Of course, there are remakes of characters like Woody and Buzz Lightyear, but we do have brand new characters, human characters more specifically, with Sid Phillips, Andy, as well as Al McWiggum in the chicken suit that were absolutely the chef's kiss, and I'm glad they ended up doing. They did a pretty decent job for the 30th anniversary compared to what they did 5 years earlier with the 25th anniversary, and that's just either making a specification version of Alien or doing the Alien remix lineup. So yeah, I felt it was no-brainer for me. Toy Story was my favorite set of 2025. The best and worst convention for Funko. Now, if anything, realistically, the eligible conventions would likely be WonderCon, San Diego Comic-Con, and New York Comic-Con, although there are some other ones that can be dabbled in there. But what I put as the worst convention overall has to be the CCXP exclusives. A convention that you probably didn't realize had exclusives because Funko barely promoted it as it is. We saw some leaks on different pages like disc trackers throughout the coming weeks before the convention, but then we didn't even get separate convention reveals like they normally do for the conventions leading up to them. It was just all in one day, and they're like, hey, we have them now available on the website. So it didn't even really feel like it should have been a convention overall for these exclusives, since there was no hype behind it by the machine themselves. While the best convention, in my opinion, for 2025 are the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives. Now, normally when I do these lists, and a lot of people would do these lists, they would consider New York Comic-Con as the best convention. However, New York Comic-Con this year definitely felt like San Diego Comic-Con 2.0, with the exclusives that were almost a direct copy of the San Diego Comic-Con ones. Where at San Diego we had a Pingu, and then at New York Comic-Con we had a different Pingu. We had the mystery pops for San Diego Comic-Con, we had the mystery pops for New York Comic-Con. It just didn't seem all that exciting for New York Comic-Con this year compared to different years, so I knew that with San Diego having a decent selection, and of course WonderCon as usual doesn't have as big of a selection as NYCC and SDCC, that San Diego Comic-Con would be the best convention of 2025 in my opinion. Narrowing it down to the best and worst convention exclusive pop. And definitely this year was an example of there were some really good convention exclusives, but a lot of terrible ones at the same time. The worst one in my opinion would have to be the purple translucent Kuromi from Anime Expo. Now, I was very close to putting the metallic variants of the V-Friends pops from New York Comic-Con. However, at least with those pops, you got different shadings of the color to show off the details. While with this translucent Kuromi, even though it's 3,000 pieces, it was only the one color itself, not showing off a lot of that detail. It really felt like a glorified prototype pop pop for the most part. And then of course, you're being charged more because it is a 3,000 piece pop. It just seemed like a waste of an exclusive in my opinion. And then the best convention exclusive pop in my opinion was the Jorgen von Strangle and Tooth Fairy 2-pack from San Diego Comic-Con. This was really exciting to see, considering that, of course, we had the 3-pack from San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago. We had the new wave released a couple months prior, and then we were hoping that we would get some new characters for conventions, and we do with Jorgen von Strangle and the Tooth Fairy, the best and worst multi-pack of 2025. Now, this was fairly difficult for the best side, but I might as well kick off with the worst side, and that I'm going with the glow-in-the-dark SpongeBob SquarePants 4-pack. And this was a bit of a nitpick that I had with multi-packs within the last couple of years that they didn't really do too much this year, which is a good thing, and that's just slapping in common Funko Pops into a multi-pack and then make one of those pops a specification, in this case a glow-in-the-dark figure. It just wasn't that appealing to me, and I hate when Funko ends up doing this. Hopefully 2025 would officially be the final year that we see these types of multi-packs. And then for the best multi-pack of 2025, there were definitely a number of candidates that could be considered in my opinion, one of them being the Funko Shop exclusive Statler and Waldorf 2-pack from the Muppets, the Ghostly Trio 3-pack from Casper the Friendly Ghost, and then just talking about the Jorgen von Strangle and Tooth Fairy 2-pack. However, there was one that I almost forgot about that actually released right at the beginning of the year, the Zack and Cody 2-pack from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was the show that I watched as a kid, and I've been wanting for years, literally since I first started collecting exactly 10 years ago, to see some Sweet Life of Zack and Cody pops, and we finally have it with this 2-pack. I'm hoping that there's more to come down the line, and when are they coming to Canada? Because these haven't reached Canada yet. The next category is the Overachiever and Underachiever. A very weird but interesting category I've made for this series. And what I mean by this is that Funko has a tendency of making a lot of pops for one specific character. So what I mean by the overachiever is the character that Funko's made a lot of pops for, and for the most part, they're pretty decent. But then there's the characters that Funko makes where people are like, why do they keep pumping up pops of this specific character? Like, enough is enough already. So for the underachiever, or the worst in my opinion, has to be Stitch. They are still pumping up the ungodly amount of Stitch pops that we don't need. Like Stitch at this point inside of a watermelon, Stitch wearing headphones, Stitch surfing, which was an exclusive to San Diego Comic-Con, and then for that CCXP exclusive, Stitch as a pirate. These are things that aren't needed at all, and that we could use new characters for Lilo and Stitch that you clearly have the license for, but you don't want to make characters other than Stitch. And then for the overachiever, the best, I almost went with the greatest of all time, the never seen 17, the last real champion, John Cena, because of course they've made a lot of pops of him this year because of the farewell tour. However, I kind of went with a more realistic one with the amount of detail that's put into this character, and that's why my choice was Art the Clown. Already within the last year or so, they have been pumping up Art the Clown pops, and they haven't been bad at all. This year we had the Art and Sienna moment. There is the Santa art that just released within the last couple of weeks, the Art the Clown with the bucket that's someone's head, and just released a few days ago was the Bloody Art the Clown with the Black Light Chase variant. So even though personally I'm a little meh on the Black Light, it makes sense for horror. Overall, all like 5 of these pops I'm pretty sure I just mentioned are pretty good variants of Art the Clown.
Shout out goes to Sentinel 107 and Unacceptable Viewer.
And the reason that they ended up getting a shout out is because they joined our YouTube channel membership, which only cost $1.99 a month. Not only do you get the shout out, but you do get lots of other perks, including early access to every single video and shorts that we produce on this channel. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It will be greatly appreciated, and it will go a long way of helping out this channel a lot. So definitely consider it, but let's get right back to the video. Up next, we have the OMG and WTF moment of the year. I think this is self-explanatory. It's a moment where you went, oh my god, and then a moment where you say WTF, and you know exactly which ones goes with the best and the worst. Because my WTF moment of the year was the reveal of the Octane 5 QR code stickers. I remember looking back at notes for earlier episodes of This Week in Collectible News and seeing some pops that still had the retailer exclusive stickers, and then it wasn't until around March or April where we started seeing a lot of those QR code stickers appear on pretty much every single Funko Pop imaginable. You literally can't look at a photo that's posted by disc trackers without looking at the actual post description to know where it's exclusive to. And the OMG moment of the year has to be the reveal of the Toy Story Funko NFTs. I remember I was on my way to the gym sitting on a bus when I saw the reveal from Drop that they were doing Toy Story NFTs. And it was also an OMG because of the leaked list of NFTs coming out in 2025 that did not feature Toy Story whatsoever. So that one was definitely kept very secretive and made it such a huge surprise to where I would say OMG. And it was to the point where, of course, not only did I go in on this set, I ended up getting the master set, and of course, hopefully this thing does end up finally shipping out at some point in the beginning of 2026. And speaking of NFTs, the best and worst redeemable NFT pop of the year. Now, whenever I do this category for these videos, I'm talking about the specific redeemable pops that are in the hands of the collectors that ended up shipping out and releasing in 2025, and not pops within sets that came out in 2025. So unfortunately, as much as I would love to pick a pop from Toy Story, that's not possible because the redeemables have not shipped out yet and the physical pops have not been in the hands of collectors like myself. So for the worst redeemable pop of 2025 has to be the glow-in-the-dark Freddy Funko as Nightwing. I've mentioned so many times that I despise this pop so much because it felt more like Nightwing than Freddy Funko as Nightwing because they had the crown of Freddy Funko translucent. And the best redeemable pop of the year, in my opinion, is the glow-in-the-dark Nightmare Freddy. This is an absolutely gorgeous pop, not only with the details involved, but the fact that this pop also has a glow-in-the-dark specification, and there's so much to this that glow-in-the-dark instead of one specific part of the pop. The second last category is the best and worst limited edition pop. This is actually a brand new category this year. The worst limited edition pop, the glow-in-the-dark blue translucent Snow White. And it's exactly with the same reasons that I brought up with the purple translucent Kuromi from earlier in this video. And now the best limited edition pop of the year. There were a lot of good pops when it came to the limited edition set. One pop that was considered is the Metal Sonic 3.0, Homer on scale since I actually did purchase that one. The Flock Spider Cat was in consideration, and the Royalty Phantasm. However, with one pop releasing literally just a few weeks ago, just made the cut as the best, and that is the chase variant of the fat lady from Harry Potter. And it's simply because of that. It's the chase variant, the very first limited edition pop to have a chase, and even though it's considered a royalty of 3,000 pieces or 3,500 pieces, the chase makes it an even lower count at around 580 pieces, technically being classified as a Grail category Funko Pop. And the final category for this video is the best and worst chase pop of 2025. And I'm gonna be honest, this was difficult because there weren't that many great chases, and in my opinion, for the worst, there's no worse pop than the gold Colonel Sanders. Nobody really even cared about just having a solid color pop as your chase figure. And then for the best chase pop of the year, Casper the Ghost, where he is the human form and not the ghost form, which is so rare for Funko to do nowadays, to make a completely different molding as your chase figure. Let me know down below your best and worst, and thanks for watching this video. See you later, guys.